Who doesn't love macaroni and cheese? I know a lot of people think that you have got to have the person who makes the best macaroni and cheese bring it to your Thanksgiving dinner. So we're adding this to our list for our holiday meal series. We're going to make mac and cheese today. I personally love a good baked macaroni and cheese, but some people like the creaminess of just a stovetop mac and cheese. Today, the recipe that we're going to make combines the best of both those worlds. Jump on in and make it with me. Hi, I'm Katherine, and welcome to my table. I'm so glad you're here today. This is one of those dishes that I keep trying different recipes. I have not found just the perfect macaroni and cheese that I love, but I did this one recently, and it is coming awfully close. So I have tweaked a couple of things about it, and we're going to redo it today, and we're going to see if this is the ultimate macaroni and cheese. Let's see. The first thing you're going to do is just cook your macaroni noodles. Just use the directions that are on the box. You can use the elbow noodles like I am today. You can use whatever shape pasta you want. You can use bow ties. You can use twists, whatever. But we're going to use just the plain old basic elbow noodles today that are traditional for macaroni and cheese. I've got my pot of water heating up, and I'm going to throw them in as soon as it's boiling. Our water's boiling really well, so I'm going to take the lid off. And the first thing I'm going to do is add some salt to our water. I'm going to add about a teaspoon. And one of the reasons I like to do this is we're just going to build flavors at every layer of this macaroni and cheese so that when we get to the finished product, it's going to be really flavorful. Okay, noodles going in. And then one other trick, I'm going to give it a quick stir, but I'm also going to take my trusty old wooden spoon. I've shown you this in a couple other videos, but maybe you're jumping in new, seeing this video for the first time, so I'll show you here too. If you will lay your spoon across the top of your pot, then it will not boil over. And that is so important because with macaroni and cheese or with any kind of pasta, that water just tends to come on up and those bubbles will want to spill out if the eye gets too high. But I'm going to turn it on about medium to medium high, somewhere between there, for them to cook. And then I'm just going to leave my wooden spoon, and that'll prevent any from spilling over onto the stovetop. Okay, let's let them cook. One other thing I'll say about the wooden spoon, if you do use it, you might want to use an older one, kind of like I do, because if you notice, this one has warped. And I think that is due to it sitting here and collecting so much steam through the years. So just kind of have one wooden spoon that you designate this is its job. And that's what I've got here. Now, one thing I wanted to mention while we're waiting on our noodles to boil is the cheeses that I have used today. I've used a combination, and you can change these up depending on what you like, what flavor palette you want, what you have in the fridge. That's always a good choice. What I have here in the bigger dish is some cheddar cheese, and it's just a combination of the orange and the white cheddar cheese. And we have about 4 cups here. And then this bowl, I'm going to use some Gruyere cheese. It's a little bit harder to find, but it melts so creamy and just has a nice texture for macaroni and cheese. And just brings a little bit different flavor palette to it. So I really like this combination. I don't always use it. Sometimes I just go real basic and just use cheddar cheese, and that is perfectly fine. It makes a great macaroni and cheese. But one other thing I'm going to tell you about the cheeses, I have grated my own cheese for this dish. Now, I'm just like y'all. Sometimes I pick up the shredded cheese at the store in the bags, and I use it because it's so easy and it's so quick, and we just need that sometimes. So I'm not knocking anybody, and if you have to use that to make your macaroni and cheese, that's fine. I've done it before too. But with macaroni and cheese, it is one of those dishes where it makes a big difference. If you can grate your own cheeses, it is really better because it melts so much better than the shredded cheese that's got all the extra like anti-caking ingredients on the cheese. You know, it'll make an okay mac and cheese, but if you can grate your own, that's better. Okay, I'm going to go drain my noodles, and then I'm going to show you what we'll do next. Now that I've drained my noodles, I'm just going to dump them into a large bowl. And I'll make sure to get all my noodles out because we're going to go back over to the stove and we're going to use this pot. All right, let's head over here. And I'm going to turn this on about medium. And we're going to use 1/4 of a stick of butter. This is about 1/4 of a cup of butter. And we're just going to kind of start by making a roux. And then add things to it to make our sauce for the macaroni and cheese. So we'll let that butter melt down first. And that's why we don't want our heat too high. We don't want to burn that butter. We don't want it to brown. We just want it to melt good. And it doesn't take long, especially since your eye was already hot and your pan was already hot because it's the one that you cook the noodles in. Okay, there we go. We've got that. And then we're going to take 1/3 of a cup of flour. And we're just going to sprinkle this in it. And we're also going to go ahead and salt now too. I know I should be measuring this. Hang on. Let me put it in the spoon. Okay, and to this we're going to add about a teaspoon. Now remember, we already salted our water, so our noodles got a little bit of flavor to them. And now we're adding that salt to our roux, so it's going to have some flavor. And this is the stage where it looks really yucky. It's just kind of wet and globby, kind of like wet sand. But we want to let it cook like this, just for a couple of minutes. And you don't have to stir it the whole time it's cooking either. It'll be all right. It just kind of hangs by itself a little bit at this stage once you've got it mixed well together. Okay, while the butter and the flour finish cooking just for a little bit longer, I'm going to get our liquid ready. We're going to use 4 cups of liquid. I'm going to use about 3 to 3.5, that's maybe 3 1/4 cups of milk. And then I'm going to finish it off with some heavy cream. So that's going to be about 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. That's perfect. Okay, let's give it a stir. It's starting to brown a little. That's okay. And now we're going to go in very slowly and add our milk and cream to it. I'm going to go ahead and add just about that much and then whisk it well to try to incorporate that flour mixture into it first. And there, you can see it's thickening up very nicely. And I feel like stopping at this point where there's just a little milk helps keep it from being so lumpy. So that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and slowly pour the rest of our milk and cream into this. And then we'll go ahead and whisk it some more, just to have it smooth and creamy. Okay, let's give it just a little bit of time to heat up. But while it does that, we can go ahead and add the rest of our flavors into this. And when it comes up to the heat temperature that we want, then we'll go back in and add our cheeses because they'll melt easily that way. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic powder. I'm going to do about a teaspoon. And then one other thing that I really like in macaroni and cheese is some ground mustard. So I'm going to put some of this in too. I'm probably only going to do about 3/4 of a teaspoon of this. Not quite as much. If you really love it, put a little more. If you don't like it, you can just eliminate this altogether. Okay, let's give that a quick whisk. And then the last thing I'm going to go ahead and add is some Worcestershire sauce. This is just going to give it a little zip, a little tang into your macaroni. We won't put enough, to be too strong, but I just love having a little bit of this in my macaroni and cheese. So I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons. That may be too much for you if you don't like it as much. but it's going to give it a really nice flavor. Okay, now I love the texture of how this is looking now. It's just a little bit of thickness starting, but it's smooth and creamy without lumps. So that's great. We're going to let it come up just a little bit where it barely starts to boil, and then we'll add our cheeses. And you do want to continue to whisk this because you don't want it to burn and stick to the bottom of the pan. So I'm just going to lightly whisk until it comes up to that almost boiling point. And you can smell those flavors already in this. That Worcestershire sauce, it smells really good. And sometimes I just need to stop whisking or stirring just to kind of wait and see, are we starting to get any bubbles yet? Not quite yet. And you can also kind of feel that it's thickening with your whisk as you go around. Yep. You're starting to get just a little bit of movement. It's getting a little bit thicker. And we're starting to get just a few bubbles. So that's the point. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because we don't want it too high at this point. And now that is going to be pretty good. We're going to add our cheeses. And I'm going to reserve part of this cheese specifically to put a top layer on our macaroni and cheese. So I'm not going to put quite all of this in here. I'm going to reserve maybe a cup and a half. I'm not measuring it though. You can just eyeball it. It'll be fine. That's probably pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and add all of the Gruyere cheese. You know, other options for this would be Monterey Jack would make a good mac and cheese. You could use Parmesan. That makes a nice flavor in a macaroni and cheese. And you see how quickly that's melting now that we have it up to the point that we needed for the milk and the flour and butter mixture. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it off because it's going to finish melting just by itself. All right, and I'm going to take it off the eye. And at this point, I'm going to pour the noodles directly into the sauce. There we go. And see, if you're one of the people that loves just the creamy stovetop mac and cheese, you can see how good and creamy this one is. So if you wanted to just stop now, you could, but I really think what we're going to do now is going to add a lot to this dish, but you're still going to have a nice creamy dish. Okay, let's go over here. And I'm going to spray my baking dish. This is a 9x13 pan. And then we're just going to pour this directly into it. And now I'm going to get the cheese that we reserved, and I'm just going to sprinkle it across the top of our mac and cheese. Just going to kind of spread it out as evenly as I can. And while we were cooking all of this, I had my oven heating up, and I've got it set at 350 degrees. So it is ready. We're going to go into the oven just for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. So we'll do that now, and then we're going to do something right at the end of the cooking that you'll see that'll give us a little bit of a crusty edge on the top, but it's going to keep that creaminess underneath. It's been 10 minutes. Our timer is about to go off. Okay, so it's off. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to set it to broil, and we're going to start that, and I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. Do not go over 2 minutes. It will get too done on top. But that, let me show you. Let me open it real quick. You see how after the 10 minutes, it's starting to get hot, melty, creamy. You can see the bubbles around the edge. Okay, but broiling it for 2 minutes is going to start to give us just a little bit of that brown crust on the top. Just a little bit. Enough to give us that element that some of us like from a baked macaroni and cheese. But you can see from what I just opened the door and let you take a peek at, it's still going to be super creamy down on the inside of the mac and cheese. So, all right, we're just a little over a minute away now. Oh boy. There we go. How good does that look? I'm going to tell on myself though. Okay, I let it go an extra minute because I should not have opened the door while it's on broil. I opened it to show you guys the mac and cheese, but I shouldn't have done that. It messed it up a little bit. So I let it go an extra minute. So set yours for 2 minutes still, and then double check it, and make sure it's getting as brown as you like. But this looks about perfect. Just a little bit of a crusty edge, but you can see with what's bubbling up around the edge on the sides of the pan that it's still going to be super creamy. Let's taste it. Oh, you can even hear that little bit of crunch on top. But look how creamy it is underneath. I want to get some underneath. And I want to get some of that crusty edge too. Woo, it's super hot because that broiler really gets it hot. I don't even know what to say. That is some good macaroni and cheese. I think that's what I've been trying to accomplish all these years, and we finally did it today. Yay for us.
You get a cry?
There are 3 things I think we did that are so important to make such a good dish. Number 1, we seasoned at every step of the way so that everything that we used in it was seasoned well. So we didn't forget any salt. We didn't add too much salt or too little salt. It's perfect. And then the extra flavors we added. So all the flavors are good. That's number 1. Number 2, we shredded our own cheeses. They melt so much better in mac and cheese than the store-bought shredded cheese. So that's number 2. Number 3, the combination of the creaminess like the stovetop mac and cheese and then baking it for just such a short time and finishing with that broil gives it a little bit of that crustiness on top. And I just love that combination. It's so good. This may be the perfect macaroni and cheese. I love it. I hope you do too. How do we wrap up after that, honey? So if you have been assigned to bring the macaroni and cheese to Thanksgiving dinner, I hope you'll give this one a try. I think everybody will like it. I just don't think you can go wrong if you follow these steps. It is so good. Well, that's a wrap for this edition of Mary Catherine's Table. I'm so glad you were with me today. This is a stellar day. It's just a stellar day. So I'm really glad you were along for the ride today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button so that you can see when we post new videos. Share them with your friends. We'd love to have them along for the ride too. And remember to find someone today who needs a little bit of kindness and give them some of yours.